choice maker, and I can turn back around and pull a U-E and go to the right if I went to the left and it was wrong.
Right.
And trust me, there's a lot of fear in that. I'm not perfect,
but there's probably a little lesson on that left-hand turn that you needed to learn.
Yes.
Before you course corrected.
Yes. And the interesting thing too, Deb, is that I started journaling when I started traveling, and I'm able to remember a lot of these experiences much more easily than what I used to. And I think there's something to not even mentally, to actually writing these things down. And I'm actually typing mine out because I don't like to write. I'm using Google Drive to type out my journal. And sometimes I'm like, wait, but this happened, or somebody said this, so I'm going back in my journal and I'm connecting all of these dots, which for me, maybe that was a coincidence, but I'm just choosing the word synchronicity because it resonates with me so much more, and it just helps me put my trust again and remind me that I'm being divinely guided and that I'm always going to be protected on this journey. And that right now, I know that I'm supposed to be teaching about mindfulness and meditation and well-being and how to live vibrantly, because, you know, when we talked about what is success briefly, and part of one of the things when I was going through a coaching program was, well, what does success look like for you? And one of the things that I wrote down was vibrant health. Because at the Chopra Center, we talk about how it's our birthright that to live vibrant health. But that's different for everybody, just like the word success. And so when I wrote that down, it just changed my perspective, because so much more of it was focused on the mental health aspect of it, because I knew if I got that right, that everything else would fall into place. And I don't know, for me, like, writing things down and journaling is actually an absolutely fantastic and beautiful mindfulness practice to do every single morning for 5 to 15 minutes. And so many people advocate for that. So I'm getting off topic here. I don't even know how I started talking about journaling.
That's okay.
But
Yeah, and everybody has their own way of, you know, the whole thing is you have to try a bunch of different things and see what works for you. I journal in the morning. I'll have to tell you about that in private because I'm not ready to. I've been working on a 8-step program that includes morning meditation and also nighttime journaling. I call it reflection, because at the end in the beginning of the day, I say how I want my day to go, how I want my day to feel, and at the end of the day, I call it reflection. So it's maybe lessons that I learned. It's very interesting.
Like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
And there's also a growth segment in there so that you learn something every day. And today, the thing that I learned was it was a meditation, an old meditation of Deepak Chopra's about Ayurvedic medicine and how different that is, because Ayurvedic medicine, which was my nutritional consulting school, had a lot of Ayurvedic in it. And I loved that so much. And it's actually where I really first started getting more in tuned with Deepak Chopra.
Okay.
Was through that. And not Wayne Dyer, Andrew Weil, food-wise. Anyway, so they put that all together and used some Ayurvedic cures like turmeric and all those kind of things. And it's not just body. It's body, mind, spirit. Again, that comes in. And we don't focus enough to make sure. We have to feed our mind, feed our body, and feed our spirit to be totally well. And that's where wellness, total homeostasis, is at its best. And that's how to live vibrantly. But you have to do all three of those things.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, so like the curriculum at the Chopra Center is focused on all three. I had to go out to California for a 4-day retreat specifically about health. And that program is designed for physicians to get continuing education courses in nutrition. So yes, so studying Ayurveda was definitely a part of this program too. It wasn't like we were just studying the ancient wisdoms and the Vedas and the like how to begin meditating and their specific technique. Yeah, there was a lot of health in that as well.
And a year long too. That's wonderful. So slowly you learned how to incorporate each thing into your life, which brought you to this
Yes.
point right now.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have, it was funny because I know when we first met, I told you I wanted to have meditation be part of this for a year. I was looking for somebody. And there you walked in the door with our friend Zulika, and Zulika walked in the door with our friend Julia. I mean, people bring other people to me, and I love that so much. I just love how that works out, synchronicity. And all of a sudden, it was the exact right time. It was the exact right time. Right now is the exact right time. And so I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate you joining the W4 Divas family for so many reasons, because not only are you going to have our morning meditation and our evening meditation, but you're going to have a show that you're going to tell us more about your story and more about how we can learn and help ourselves through what you went through.
Yeah. And I'm so thankful for this opportunity too, because I think when we first talked, there were limiting beliefs and fears that were coming up for me, and I expressed this to you. And, for the listeners to know what some of those were, it was fear of, if I share my story or my opinions or my beliefs, that they will be rejected. And I had never really recognized that was a fear or a limiting belief of mine until I went to a Tony Robbins conference earlier this year.
Right.
Yes. And the exercise was to just jot these down, and we were timed. And it was, trusting your intuition and trusting wherever that pen, whatever letters were going to be coming out, was essentially the exercise. And that was the first one I wrote down. And on that journey, you and I had kept in touch. And so I was thinking about, oh my gosh, am I ready to do this? I don't know. It was all of these fears. And until I did that exercise there, and part of his exercise was, but the truth is, I had to write a statement that was really the truth. The truth is that people relate to my story. The truth is that I have something to share. The truth is that, it might be rejected by some people, but you're impacting other lives, and that's your purpose here. And until I got over those fears, and it wasn't on that day did that end. It took several more months. It took me a little bit more traveling. I went to South America, and when I got back from South America, at that point, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I've done enough work on myself now that I know that this is, all of the signs are pointing to you. You knew every time that I was home, and I didn't even tell you. It was like to the day, right? Like these events
that gives me goosebumps
couldn't stop happening, right? And then, just the timing of the show and the slot opened, and it was just like, okay, yes. I couldn't even stop saying it enough times. And now I'm just fired up. And I'm fired up because the more that I traveled and the more people I met all over the world that are struggling or were struggling with the exact same things that I was, are like, share your story. Do it. And I've even, as I'm teaching and doing all of these workshops around town, I feel the passion come out in my voice. I did my first one yesterday, after just being home for 3 days, and I was nervous, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been over 2 months since I've done this. Are the words going to come out? And my prayer before I always do this is, search me, know me, and use me in whatever way I need to be used today, and just allow the words to come out, the words that need to resonate with whoever is going to be there. And so I'm just trusting that whatever I actually come out and say, just like today, is going to touch somebody's lives, even if it's just one person in that moment. But I share that limiting belief because I know that a lot of people have it, and I was scared to admit that was my limiting belief and my reason for not actually doing this. And now it's just like, I'm sick of people lying to themselves and not living authentically. And I don't know why it fires me up so much, but I just feel like I need to be as authentic as I can to motivate people to actually live that same life.
I love it.
Share, it's even like even in the workforce too, I can't tell you, every time I got pulled into a conversation, it came down to communication barrier. They think it's a process thing. They're asking for more money for this. But the reality is there's just a communication breakdown between a couple of teams. And when you start to realize that's the problem, you're like, no, we don't need more budget for this. We don't need to do this. You guys just need to get in a room and actually speak truthfully to one another. And that was my favorite thing to do in my job, Deb, is to, once I started doing this work, I was doing the work on myself, but it was so beneficial to every other person that I came in contact with. And it still is today.
And that started teaching you that you were on the right path and
Absolutely.
trusting it more.
Absolutely,
Yes.
because I wasn't trusting that the advice that I was giving was being used or beneficial. And once I started to get, and we all need a little bit of validation, but
Right.
once you started to see that, like, wow, the words that I said were actually impactful, actually meant something to somebody, or somebody a couple days later was like, thank you so much for that conversation that we had. It meant a lot. And you're like, all I did was sit there and listen, or all I did was say this and that. And I'm reading a really interesting, I just finished it, a book by Thich Nhat Hanh called, I think it was The Art of Communication. I don't remember the exact title, but he talks about compassionate communication and how to be a deep listener. And it was such an easy read. I think everybody should read it, but there were a lot of aha moments that totally make sense. It's so simple. I think all of these experiences really just helped get me here, and I'm so excited to start the show.
Good, and I'm so excited to have you on here and be a part of us, because the way that we're growing is, when I first started this, you described the reason why W4 Divas started without even realizing it. It was to help people to understand that they have choices, that there are alternatives, to maybe help you. It's to have fun, but it's also to have someplace to go to listen when you're by yourself, so that you feel like you're never alone. It's a place to evolve. It's a place to share, and it's a place to hear authentic people talk about what they're going through, and to help you go through it. Because I always say, give purpose to your pain. And you also have to give passion to your pain, because there's a reason why you're going through it. And it's usually to help somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that mission. And that totally resonates with me, because we need more people that are willing to put themselves out there to share their story, because everybody suffers. Mm-hmm. Everybody suffers.
And you're not
experiences
alone,
pain,
right?
And you are absolutely not alone. No, absolutely not. And I think that's the one thing, is like, why hide it?
And that is the time that you feel most isolated.
Yeah. Because
you think nobody feels pain like this, but we do. Everybody feels pain. And it's sometimes we have to feel pain to grow. That's the truth. But you have to take it for what it's worth and live in it, and know that it's not going to last forever if you do something about it.
Yeah, and a lot of us just shovel it to the side because we're moving so quickly on autopilot with our lives, and there's so many other things that we need to take care of. But eventually it catches up with us,
and
you come crashing down.
Right.
Yeah, and that's exactly what mine was. It was chronic unmanaged stress that led to my health issues, and I'm a firm believer in that. Doctors can sit there and try to convince me otherwise, but I know that that's what it was. Once I started doing my own research and going through these coaching programs and working with all the practitioners that I've worked with, my heart is telling me that it was the lifestyle choices that I was choosing to make. And I could not agree with you more that, I hope all the listeners out there know that they are not alone. Whatever pain that they have woken up with today and tomorrow and experienced in the past, there was purpose. And we don't know that in the moment.
Right.
It can take days, months, years.
And that's why you
maybe
journal.
Other lifetimes to even figure out what that is. But we have the choice to choose when to stop suffering. And I think that I used to always play the victim of it's somebody else's fault.
Right.
I'm blaming them. And I've been taught, thanks to my amazing therapist, that no, I chose the way that I reacted. I chose that. And now I choose to react with more compassion and empathy and grace versus fear and judgment and greed and whatever.
And
other
how much
reasons that
happier are you?
Literally, Deb, I don't even a lot. I don't know what the right answer is for that, right? It's just I feel alive. And there are days when I feel low. Right. But I now have the tools to basically get me to a high. And one of those, I actually just posted my blog post about a week ago about this. One of the tools that I use is dance.
Oh, me too. I love that. Yes.
Maybe we can do a dance workshop.
You can't be sad and dance.
You can't.
No way.
You cannot.
That's absolutely right.
It just, and sometimes people think that's weird. Even before I do workshops, like my whole morning is prep. And I